I wanted you to be one of my first guests on, like featured guests on this podcast, is because you're one of the reasons why I got into loving superheroes in the first place. Because if you work with Mark, you'll learn very quickly that he references superheroes everywhere and every opportunity he gets.
Every opportunity I get,
So
every
where did
opportunity.
this all start for you? When did superheroes take over your life?
Uh, I don't know. I think as a kid, my brother loved sport, and I didn't really like, I didn't barrack for Hawthorn or Collingwood like my dad. And I don't know. My thing was WWE and like watching superhero stuff. And like I think some people kind of grew out of it. And like when I was like 15, I was still watching cartoons in the morning, and like I just loved it, like Dragon Ball Z and all that kind of stuff. And there was, I think, a couple of like guys at school who just never stopped watching it, and I was one of them. And like we'll go to school and like they'd get the Dragon Ball Z episodes and we'll pass them around. It's like, oh, did you see the battle with Frieza? And like we'd have the whole like talk about it. And then yeah, when they really started, I think the DC universe really started making animations for adults and like really kind of mature themes, very, very graphic. And like Dragon Ball Z is probably one of the things that, made me probably watch superhero cartoon animation specifically, I think, for a lot longer. But I think, I don't know, just the storytelling and the metaphors, I think progressively have just gotten a lot better. And I think I just like good storytelling and that visual metaphors. And I think, as my friend Dwayne Alley points out, the kind of gods of the old, the Juno, what was it, Juno, Jupiter, and whatever it was, the Zeus kind of stories that have been told about, the gods battling each other. They really have been translated to the archetypes of the superhero. Like Zeus being Superman. The dark side of him being Batman, kind of stuff. And exploring that, if someone is all powerful, and creating, I suppose, drawing conclusions about, or seeing parallels to your own life about you in this certain, and also seeing how, perfect people or people with supposed strength can be unbelievably flawed in character. And I think the genre has just developed so much. Not that like the Hollywood stuff is good. I like a lot of the Hollywood. I hate some of it. Like DC, I think, haven't made a good movie since they made, Batman Begins, and the Batman Christopher Nolan trilogy. I don't think they've made another good movie. Like Shazam was all right, but I think for the most part they've just made terrible movies. Whereas Marvel, I think the Marvel universe is unbelievably done. It's done well. Like, and they took 10 years to do it. But if you look at, I think probably some of the best storytelling is in the DC animations, the comics. Like, I mean, they take risks, and it's a platform where you can take risks and tell different stories. And I think that's for me what the themes. That's what captures my imagination. That it can kind of, it's the unexpected. Like you watch something on Netflix, you watch something, it's kind of the same thing. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize about the animations and cartoons, is that writers are able to take a lot more risks in their storytelling and give you something that is quite novel and exciting and genuinely exciting. Like, and I think they're characters that over time, you fall in love with. I've been watching Batman since I was a kid. Superman, I know these characters. I love these characters. And I love seeing how those characters get portrayed, bringing depth to them and parallels. And just, yeah, I just love the genre.
So has Batman always been your favorite?
It's definitely one of my favorites, but I don't know, I've got a lot of favorites. But in the DC universe, I think Batman, Superman, yeah, they're probably, like, in terms of, I think, the most two interesting characters, Batman and Superman. Superman for different reasons. Like when you put Superman up against, like in the Justice League or the Legion of Doom, or when he gets his powers taken away, and it's, the question of, is it just about his powers, or is it about the man? When he has kryptonite tattoos and stuff like this, it's like, that's where you see the character of when he doesn't have powers. What does this guy do? And I think really, like, a quite fascinating like exploration of character that you can look at. And so yeah, I love in the DC those two characters certainly. If it's Marvel, I mean Spider-Man, I think is probably one of the best characters, not the most powerful character, but one of the best and most interesting characters written in. And I think the first character that Stan Lee came up to, no, the first character that Stan Lee came up with, that was flawed, because at the time it was, you had DC, which were writing characters, or Superman had no flaws. In actual fact, in the 50s, Superman was so perfect that they actually had to introduce kryptonite and to make him interesting again, because he was too perfect. He could do anything. It became uninteresting. It wasn't until we introduced the flaws that the character became interesting again. And Stan Lee, in all his wisdom, started that with Spider-Man from the very get-go, and made him a kid and nerdy and not confident to talk to girls, and kind of a dweeb, yet had these powers and lived this double life. So I think as a character, probably in the Marvel universe, Spider-Man would be way up there for me in terms of interesting characters.
Awesome. It's not hard to tell that this is a very passionate conversation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted
to.
Sorry, go on.
Just gonna say, I love anime too. Like Dragon Ball Z is probably, like, actually Dragon Ball Super. I'm watching Dragon Ball Super. If anyone has seen, I'm watching they just released, or not just, it's like 2 years old, but I haven't seen it yet. But Dragon Ball Super is I'm watching that at the moment, which is amazing. It's great.
I remember sitting in probably one of the first weeks of we did a workshop, and I'm thinking, wow, he makes so many references to superheroes. I have no idea what he's talking about. And so it's easy to see how I was able to quickly, pivot and have to learn, because otherwise I'm just not going to pick up on the learning that he's trying to teach me. So having said that, as coaches, we are somewhat role models to the people we work with. How did you, I guess, determine, I guess in particular, one of the exercises that comes to mind for me is when we did an activity about the superhero archetypes. So, archetypes is, for anyone who doesn't quite understand, it's an example and model of something. So Mark gave us the task of researching different superheroes that we might resonate with, and listing their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, learning a bit about their history, but also finding out who their arch enemy was, and then researching them in exactly the same way. And then on top of that, then downloading your own strengths and abilities, and writing them down. And I found that quite a powerful exercise for myself personally. I can't speak for the other people in the class, but one, I learned a lot, but also I found it quite a valuable exercise. Do you want to take us through the purpose behind that, Mark?
Yeah, so I got to give full credit to Dwayne Alley. Did his level 4 program, Science of Change, and I was talking with Dwayne, and Dwayne, he had a kind of a version of the exercise where he said, yeah, pick a person or a superhero. I can't remember exactly, but I think his was a little bit more open, like you could pick kind of anyone. And I was speaking to him, and then he said, you should really do this exercise for your guys, but on superheroes, because of your knowledge on superheroes. And I go, that's a great idea. So I ran with it, and so it's his exercise, and he said, run it like this, and spoke to him about how I run it. And obviously, like, because I know so much about superheroes, I was able to probably take it to another level, because I've watched the Elseworld stories of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Like, I see when they're put in different situations, like, say for example, Superman, there's a story of Superman called Son of Krypton, where instead of landing in small town America, he lands in Russia, and he becomes a weapon of the state. So it's like, is he still Superman? Like, is it nature or is it nurture? That kind of questions. What's the personality? So full credit to Dwayne in terms of teaching me that method. But I just thought it was a great way to, again, people love stories, and when you watch a story, people say, I don't read fiction, or I don't read nonfiction rather. Sorry, people who say they don't read fiction, I think, or watch shows and this kind of stuff, I think they're missing out on opportunities to learn about themselves, because when we watch a good story, you can't help but put yourself in the shoes of the hero. You know, whether it's or the bad guy, right? Whether it's you know, a show like Breaking Bad where good guy turns to, you know, kind of psychopath, or you're watching the traditional hero story, you put yourself in that shoes, and you know, what would I have done in that situation? Could I have overcome that? I think storytelling naturally, and we've been telling stories since, you know, we've been human, right? So it makes us, it's human. So I saw it, the exercise as a way to give, you know, yourself and everyone in the class tools when they have situations. This is something that I sometimes do. When you have situations, it's like, well, if I was the best version of myself, how would I handle it? Or, you know, if I was my superhero version of myself, how would I handle that? And what would I do? And, you know, if this was a story, if this was my story that I'm living, and it is my story that I'm living, and it can be as exciting as I want it to be, how am I going to overcome this? I'm going to find a way. Like superheroes, they always find a way. And if they don't find a way, they learn and the story continues. You know, it's just how it goes. So I think, you know, you don't hear the story of Superman losing very often. And when he does lose, he still finds a way, right? The same as Batman. And they can lose terribly. They can lose terribly, but ultimately they come back to tell another story. And that's why I think it was a great tool.
Yeah, I thought your example, obviously, of being envisioning yourself as Batman, you know, when you're in your best place, and then the Joker when you're not, you know, it's sort of, I see it as a good way of realigning yourself with your values, you know, and when you do find yourself too far in the dark side, so to speak, because I mean, that's something I speak a lot about when people try to talk about balance, or, you know, and I'm like, well, there's always two sides to every coin, and sometimes, you know, we might be on, it's all roses, but then on the other side of it, it's, you find yourself in a place where it doesn't resonate with your values. So I think that's where the superhero connection, especially with Wonder Woman, for me, was quite a valuable tool at that stage of my life, because that was probably about 5 years ago now. It gave me confidence to think, like, when I was not feeling my strongest, or that I was in my true self, well, how would Wonder Woman, how would this leader of love approach, you know, work, life, things like that? So it kind of helped me put myself back into that place of a love leader, which really is what I believe Wonder Woman is, a leader of love, you know, and with her strengths. And I actually didn't realize until this movie recently that she really had anyone that could rival her. So when I learned about Cheetah, or I watched the movie and I saw Cheetah, I was like, okay, I got to research this, you know, this hero, this character, not hero, villain. And so everything that Cheetah is all about is the complete opposite of Wonder Woman, and that's why you know, she even rivals her in any significant way, which was just super interesting, because I again made the connection with myself. So if there is any ego, or any emotional, you know, instability on my half, I feel like, you know, the way that I was looking at Cheetah in the movie, and I was like, man, she just needs to get her, I will say, to stuff together, right? I was like, come on, snap out of it, you know. But so I saw the good qualities, but the bad qualities. I was like, okay, so if I'm ever not feeling like, if I'm feeling like I'm in a place of Cheetah, I need to like snap myself back into reality, and be like, realign myself with my values of being this leader of love. So yeah.
It's just fun. It's like a fun way to come at it with, you know, it's a good anchor as well. And when you watch those shows, it's a good reminder of what you're trying to do, I suppose, in life. I mean, probably right now for me, it's like I'm watching Dragon Ball Super, and you know, the theme is there's always another level. Like that's what I love about it. There's always another level. Like you watch Dragon Ball, you know, then you watch Dragon Ball Z, and it's like he goes from the big transformation is when Goku turns Super Saiyan. And then, you know, his son goes to Super Saiyan 2, and then all of a sudden everyone, you know, the other Saiyans are able to go to Super Saiyan 2. Then Goku finds another level, Super Saiyan 3, and then it becomes this kind of thing where people think, you know, oh, it's just another level. Oh, it's just, but I was thinking about it, it's like, well, that's kind of like, you know, now it's Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Ultra Instinct and all this kind of stuff. But it's really actually quite metaphorical for life. Like as corny as it is as a kid's show, or now it's like kind of an adult, more aimed at a you know, kind of mature. level, not so much for kids. But you know, I think it is really metaphoric for life. Like there is, I mean, what a message! What a message! There is always another level. What a message! And to be told, you know, in cartoons, okay, cool, like that's awesome. There's always another level. So you know, you can take these things away and watch them as people watch sport, and they get really inspired watching, you know, Michael Jordan, just the same way. I mean, it's just different, right? I get really, you know, pumped up and you know, ready to go watching cartoons. You know, it's kind of the same. It's just different. That's all it is. So I suppose, you know, to answer the first question, where did it come from? I think really that's probably it. You know, instead of people watching sport, I watch cartoons.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And it exactly, it exemplifies, you know, I guess people are always looking for happy endings, but you know, exactly what you're talking about is there's always another level. And a question I always get all the time is, Ria, surely you're at a place of maintenance now, you know, like you're happy with where you're at, and that's you. And I'm like, no, not a chance. There's no such thing. You're progressing or you're regressing. There's always another level. There's always the next step, you know, but people see, they compare, they're like, the level that I'm on, you're on, you know, and they're just like, well, surely that's enough. And I'm like, look, it might be far from where you're at, but I'm always seeking that next step. I'm always seeking that next level. You know, I guess that's the gamer in me as well. Like I grew up playing video games and I loved all that. I watched cartoons too until my teens, and admittedly I probably stopped. But I love it. I love seeking that next step, that next thrill, that next challenge for myself. So yeah, I think that was a wonderful tool.
Awesome. Well, it's really great to hear.
You know, and Russell Brand, he actually posted this quote the other day, which was quite interesting. He said, if you don't choose heroes, heroes will be chosen for you, and they will not represent values that empower you. They will represent powers that will enslave you.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, I mean, you see that's actually really good. Like when you were talking about Wonder Woman and Cheetah before, and I think Cheetah is the perfect archetype that represents that. It's like Wonder Woman chose her hero from when she was a kid. It was, you know, wasn't her mother? Was it her mother? I think it was her mother, Athena, something like this. But she had that instill, like you were going to be this, and she had people to look up to. Whereas you look at Cheetah, she's kind of this character that had no one, and she wanted to be. She said, "I want to be Wonder Woman," but actually, her ego took over, and you know, it's kind of like, well, this is what's going to be chosen for you. I mean, that's really quite deep. Yeah. Got Russ and Brand, he always delivers something.
Yeah, that one that really hit the nail on the head for me as well. It's like it's really interesting because they will be chosen for you, and they won't be the right ones. So I'm glad that I got to choose Wonder Woman as mine, because even as you said, you know, with Cheetah, is she. So where I was when we did this, I was in a place of Cheetah. I was in a place of low self-esteem, and I wanted to be something that I didn't feel that I deserved at that stage of my life. And so finding a hero in Wonder Woman gave me confidence that that is ultimately the level that I could achieve. Basically.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so even with just speaking with you the other day, you ended up educating me more about superhero life and things again. And I learned that Batman, your hero, had plotted a plan to kill everyone. Please explain.
Yeah, so in one of the Justice League, so I will caveat actually a little bit, and I don't know if Batman's my hero anymore. He's always going to be like my hero, but like at the moment, I'm kind of again obsessed with Dragon Ball Super. So I don't know, Prince Vegeta is kind of my like number one at the moment. He's just so cool. Anyway, but yeah, Batman in one of the Justice Leagues, I forget which one it is, he made a master plan, basically a backup plan that if any of the Justice League went rogue, or if the Justice League went rogue, he was going to take them all down. So obviously, he's the only member of the Justice League without any superpowers, and the representation of human right, on the Justice League. He's the only one who is complete. I mean, Green Lantern's human, but he still has superpowers, and you know, the cosmos. Whereas Batman is 100%, you know, he's a human. So he felt that to protect humanity, which is, you know, one of Batman's big things, he had to come up with a plan to disarm the Justice League if ever they went rogue. So he made plans to take everyone down and ployed on their biggest weaknesses and fears. And the plans got stolen by the Legion of Doom, and they executed them to the T. And it was like examples like Superman can't help but rescue the guy who wants to commit suicide. So there's a guy on top of the building saying he's going to jump off, and he has a gun. Superman doesn't know, and he shoots him with a kryptonite bullet, right? And that's how he takes Superman down. And like Green Lanterns is he breaks, like, Batman knows his biggest fear, something like he let I think one of his relationships down, and he breaks Green Lantern's will, and he can't use the ring anymore. And then Batman also knows how to get his will back, but he breaks Green Lantern's will completely with a scenario. And like Martian Manhunter, he can't regenerate when there's fire, so it puts him on a eternal blaze. And Wonder Woman's was giving her a hallucinogen to make her see Cheetah, and because he knows that Wonder Woman's a warrior, and she has to fight. She won't back down from a fight. So he puts an hallucinogen in. They inject Wonder Woman with an hallucinogen, and she just keeps seeing Cheetah and fights. And she's like fighting poles and park benches, and like just sees cheetahs everywhere. And she fights herself into exhaustion, and that's how he takes Wonder Woman down, because she's so tired that she can't stand anymore.
And I laugh when you told me that, because it is a way that I would break down also, because it's like when you come from that place of love and you have so much heart, it's like you will literally fight to
yeah.
So that's super interesting to me when you told me that. But so I guess to bring it down to your own superhero story a little bit, when do you think that there's been a time where you've sort of had to channel your inner superhero to kind of overcome an obstacle and come out the other end victorious?
It's a really interesting question. I don't know. I think for me, I try and find inspiration in storytelling, and if I'm going through a challenging time, I might put on an animation or watch something, and I'll draw inspiration from it. And I mean, like, there probably hasn't been a specific time, because I probably do it a lot, and I don't even realize now that I think it's actually probably been a common thing of how I've dealt with things, or like if I need a little bit of inspiration or whatever it is, I'll actually watch animations, and that's kind of my fix. So or even like a good video game, surprisingly, that has a good story. So I mean, I would say like throughout my life, but there's nothing where I go, I used that for this. There was one instance, actually. I kept coming second in a lot of things, and for many years, actually, in bodybuilding and a strongman comp, and I just kind of like had this thing of second best, and it really bothered me. And I played a game. It's called God of War 3, and in the game, Kratos, the main character, kills every god in Greek mythology, and then the last god he kills is Zeus. And I don't know why, but I really connected with the story, because it's a story of just like, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna win. And then like after that, I kind of, I don't know, it was just, I remember parking that, going, that was a really powerful story. And when I was competing at a strongman comp, I really wanted to win. Like, this is my Zeus. Like, I got to kill this. I got to kill my Zeus is coming second. So that was, I suppose, one of the real obvious ones where I thought I kind of channeled my inner Kratos of rage, and was just like, nah, this is going my way today. And I'm not making a mistake today. I'm digging deeper. I'm lifting that 140 kilo concrete stone over that pole. I don't care. Like, this is happening. And that's what happened. So
I think that's a perfect example, to be honest. I mean, look, the fact that you did a strongman comp, that in itself is an everyday superhero power, so to speak. You're pushing yourself to your maximum abilities to lift quite more weight than anyone else can do without the specific training that you would have associated with that. So I think even with just that example, the fact that you got so fed up with being second, and it was sort of the thorn in your side, and you went, screw it, today I'm going to be victorious, I'm going to be the winner. and you actually did. That's a very significant example of summoning your superhuman in my eyes, and an example of how when we sort of need a reminder, or we need a break away from stress or things that might be bothering us, that there are, you know, we have our safe places that we go to. And I know for you, you know, your animations and your video games have been that go-to place for you to sort of let your mind rest and go to another place and then come out clearer afterwards. Would you say that's...
Yeah, mythology. Like, it's just the stories of the imagination. You know, I think there really is something to it. It's like you have this problem, and you know, you let your brain see the problem in a different way, through a different lens, through a different character, over something that's completely ridiculous that couldn't happen. You know, like, I can't fly, I can't throw projectiles from my hands. You know, I'm not fighting at, you know, lightning speeds or anything like that. Like, all these things are physically, like, it is such a ridiculous, um, such a ridiculous construct that I think subconsciously you watch it and you take things from, even if you don't want to, because it's like, oh, like, this has nothing to do with my life. Nothing. Like, my life isn't, you know, fighting bad guys. But again, this is where the storytelling comes in. A good story, it's like, and you know, because there's lots of these characters, can make you reflect and go, well, is human like me? And there's some stuff in there, you know. Batman's a bit of a control freak. Like, where am I doing that? I see why, you know, and you're asking the question, why doesn't he just kill the Joker? Wouldn't it just be easy if he just killed the Joker? Like, you know, like, it's like, well, not being able to see, it's very black and white, right? It's very black and white. It would be just easier. Wouldn't his life just be easier if he just killed the Joker? Like, why can't he just kill that one guy? No, it's all or none. If I kill the Joker, I'm never going to return from that darkness of abyss. I'm just going to end up killing everyone. That's all or none attitude. Like, is that really, you know, it has nothing to do with your life, like nothing. But you look at that, I think, internally, and it's like, well, where am I being all or none? Where do I do that? Where, how could I make my life easier if I maybe just saw things a little bit differently? And I think that's what mythology and these stories, these fiction stories, give people an opportunity, is to be absolutely ridiculous in what's being presented, but then that allows, in a very playful way, to see likeness in everyday problems that we have, and channel that superhero to overcome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of brings me to the question that I ask everyone at the end is, what does summoning your superhuman mean to you? How would you summarize that?
Summoning my superhuman mean to me, I think just an ideal version of you. Well, even more than that, you know, there's a lot of challenge in this world. There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of darkness, I suppose, in this world as well. And life has inherent challenges, and is you know, if you take on challenges, it's inherently hard. And I think there's two ways you can live your life. You can live your life with the challenges that choose you, or the challenges that you get to take on. And I think you have to pick. And I think a superhero is someone who is never thinking about themselves, you know, regardless of how bad their life is, that they look at the challenges of other people and they take on those challenges. And, you know, almost by definition, they have an like, quote unquote easier life. It's not really easier. They actually have more responsibilities, because instead of now just being responsible for themselves, they're responsible for a lot of people. Now that could be, you know, taking on a business, having a family, looking after kids. It's getting outside of yourself and putting other people's problems at a higher priority. And then I think by comparison, your problems are smaller. So I think as you know, channeling a superhero, I really have a connection to that. It's like, well, doing something that is more than you. I think the word hero comes from a Greek word that means slave of society, which is also a very interesting thought, because it's like, you're being a slave of society. Why do you want to be a hero? If you want to, you know, it's kind of like the slave. It's kind of a negative connotation of the same words in terms of the origins. But I think it's something that's very noble, is to want to do something for a greater good, You know, and then the question is, what is that good? And you know, who are you to define that good? I mean, is a completely other podcast probably, but yeah, I think it is trying to do good for other people, and it's and making something more than just about yourself. That's how I look at it.
Nice. Having a greater purpose, right?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, and doing good in the world.
Yeah. That's how we sort of feel fulfilled, I guess. You know, we get a lot out of giving, but also, yeah, we give, but we have to learn to receive at the same time, and keeping our cup full and our energies high, so we can provide strength and courage for others.
Yeah, and that's where it's interesting, right, with the superhero archetype stuff, because the hero wants to just give and the villain wants to just take, and the truth is you need to do both. So this is where, like, being your villain and being a hero, it's actually, you know, it's like, well, you got to learn to play in both bounds to be able to give and receive.
Awesome. All right, Mark, I want to be respectful of your time, and I thank you so much for jamming about superheroes with me. You know, so I did want to touch upon the superhuman part, but it also ties back to the superhero. So this is not a superhero podcast, but it's also about channeling our best selves and our greater purpose. So I want to thank you so much for your time today, Mark. If you want to find out more about Mark and what he does, he's very easy to find. There's only one of him in the world. Enterprise Fitness is his baby. And he also has a podcast called The Wolf Stand. So if, you know, especially any personal trainers, anyone in the health and wellness game, get onto his stuff. It's very, very valuable content that he provides. If you're, no matter what part of the game you're at, he's always holding workshops and things like that. So yeah, if you don't already know, get to know who Mark Ottobre is. Thank you so much today, Mark.
Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate